Oke.
Universitas Negeri Malang is a state university with a vision to become a leading university, a world-class university. UM continues to develop and improve the completeness of its facilities and infrastructure. As the heart of Universitas Negeri Malang, Geraha Rektorat Hall was inaugurated in 2017. Visitor must comply with the COVID-19 protocols and must be screened through the Peduli Lindungi application. HSE facilities include hydrant, fire extinguisher on each floor, and emergency stairwell. Warm and cooperative service is the priority of the UM staff. Geraha Rektorat function as an integrated service unit of the Information Center, Administration and University Management. One of the learning support facilities at Universitas Negeri Malang is the library, with digital and non-digital books collection. Currently, UM Library has a total collection of approximately 63,000 literature, 154,000 copies, and 83,000 OPAC, or online public access catalog titles that meet national and international standards. The Library of Universitas Negeri Malang has been nationally accredited A since 2020. UM has 3 campus dormitories equipped with bedrooms, common or recreation rooms, and bathrooms. The dormitories can accommodate approximately 1,400 students. Sport facilities include a gym, a swimming pool, and national standard fields. Praying rooms with facilities to support the spiritual activities. Polyclinics and other health supporting facilities are also available to students. Free doctor consultation and pharmacy services. Laboratories at each faculty in UM. Counseling room at the Center for the Development of Career Counseling Guidance and Academic Competence, and information technology facilities supported by adequate resources. UM also has a Language and Culture Center, a Nowadaysm Lab School, teaching laboratory schools with classes ranging from playgroup to high school, student organization buildings, and canteens spread across faculties. Universitas Negeri Malang also has a number of meeting halls with large capacity and representative rooms for academic and non-academic activities. Universitas Negeri Malang, with its complete facilities and infrastructure, continues to support the development of education for society.
Welcome to Universitas Negeri Malang, Excellence in Learning Innovation. Now, let's go further. Faculty of Education is one of the faculty that produced many graduates of the area in education. Education has three main campuses, including the first one sited at Jalan Semarang number 5 Malang, second at Jalan Ki Ageng Gribik number 45 Malang, third at Jalan Insinyur Soekarno, Blitar City.
Faculty of Education Universitas Negeri Malang continues to grow and develop in line with the development of science and technology. It corresponds to our vision in becoming an excellent faculty and a reference in the implementation of the Dharma of higher education in the field of education.
Provide graduates who are intelligent, religious, and professionally can apply and develop science in the field of education. We provide facilities and infrastructure that can support the learning activities. The vision of Faculty of Education, thousands of national and international reference textbooks and articles are provided in the Faculty of Education library. Students can access it through the websites. Multimedia and computer lab, also web-based room, are provided to support the learning activities to gain effective and innovative teaching. In the Faculty of Education are built to provide excellent service. So right now we are entering the Finance and Employees Affairs Subdivisions room. Self-access computers are provided for the students so they can input their own academic data efficiently. Faculty of Education Universitas Negeri Malang has 6 excellent departments. So, let's dive into those amazing departments. Guidance and Counseling Department provide guidance and counseling service for developing human resource at education level primary. Department of Educational Technology produce scientific products by developing educational technology activities and empower community through implementing products of educational technology. Department of Educational Administration performs best service in educational management, leadership, and supervision. Non-formal education provides service at educators and administration staff. At non-formal education, institution and organization on community empowerment program. The Department of Elementary and Preschool Education is always committed to improving the quality of educational service of elementary school teachers and early childhood education teachers. Special Education Study Program produce graduates who are intelligent, independent, and able to apply, as well as developing knowledge in the area of special education in various sectors, professionally and proportionally. Entrepreneur skill and competence, Faculty of Education has built Edupreneurship Center that can be managed independently by the student under the supervision of the lecturer and practitioners. That's the virtual tour at Faculty of Education, Universitas Negeri Malang. Thank you for viewing this video.
Sinar mentari pagi menerangi seluruh sudut kota. Kehangatan menyadarkanku dari kegelapan. Aku berada di antara warna-warni kota dan hiruk-pikuk impian yang berbeda-beda. Takdir membawaku ke suatu tempat yang hebat. Tempat yang membantuku menggapai impian. Perjalanan ini dimulai. Di sini, aku belajar cara memfasilitasi pembelajaran di dunia pendidikan dan pelatihan, mulai dari desain, pengembangan, pemanfaatan, pengelolaan, hingga evaluasi. Contohnya adalah belajar cara menciptakan pembelajaran yang konkret dengan mendesain dan mengembangkan media 3 dimensi, membuat modul untuk pendidik, kemudian mengelola website yang menarik siswa untuk belajar. Aku belajar bagaimana cara meningkatkan performa pembelajar melalui rancangan kurikulum yang efektif dan efisien, serta melakukan kegiatan pendidikan dan pelatihan untuk para pendidik. Di sini aku juga bisa membantu teman-teman yang masih sekolah untuk memberikan rasa nyaman dan semangat belajar dengan menggunakan metode pembelajaran yang tepat. Dengan menyesuaikan perkembangan dunia, semua ilmu seputar teknologi pendidikan aku pelajari di sini, seperti ilmu fotografi, videografi, hingga ilmu kepenyiaran yang semakin berpengaruh dalam dunia pendidikan. Aku menemukan keinginan dan kebahagiaan di sini. Aku bisa melihat dan ikut bersenang-senang bersama mereka dalam berbagai hal, seperti menuangkan ide melalui film, bermain musik, menciptakan karya tulis, menyiarkan informasi seputar dunia pendidikan, dan berlatih bersama dalam sportivitas olahraga. Mereka sudah seperti saudara sendiri. Ya, saudara tak harus sedarah, bukan? Dan disinilah aku bermimpi, berproses, dan berkarya.
Dimohon kepada para peserta karena acara akan dimulai agar menempati kursinya masing-masing dan dimohon untuk tenang. Terima kasih.
to see the horizon, turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands, and on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays, and on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me. So alive, make it last forever. Stop in time, yeah, I'm surrendering. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me.
Good afternoon, Honorable the Dean of Faculty of Education, State University of Malang, or representing of him, Honorable the Head of Educational Technology Department, State University of Malang, Dr. Henry Praherdiono, SSE MPD, Honorable Master and Doctoral Program Coordinator of Educational Technology Department, State University of Malang, Dr. Dedi Kuswandi, MPD. Honorable the guests, also our speakers from Coventry University, the United Kingdom, Professor Sylvester Arnab, Professor Catherine Wimpeny, and also Mr. Dominic Mohon, PhD. Honorable all lecturers of Educational Technology Department, State University of Malang, and also all participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to Visiting Professor event. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to extend a warm welcome and express our gratitude for participating in the Visiting Professor event with the theme Frugal and Playful Learning for Developing Social Resilience. I am Riza Haniza as the master of the ceremony. The honorables, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, to begin our agenda, let us pray according to each other's beliefs. Pray, begin. Finish, thank you. The second agenda is singing the national anthem of Indonesia. The honorables, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, we would like to request to all of you, please stand, because we would like to sing the national anthem of Indonesia. Thank you, and kindly be seated. The honorables, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, step on to following agenda as the main session today, sharing knowledge and discussion about the theme Frugal and Playful Learning for Developing Social and Resilience. We would like to invite our speakers, Professor Sylvester Arna, Professor Catherine Wimpany, and also Mr. Dominic Mahon, PhD, and also our moderator, Dr. Muhyiddin Fadli, MPD. Please proceed to the stage. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon Mbak, Mas, Kakak, Adik, Bapak, Ibu. Terima kasih Ibu MC yang telah membuka acara ini. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Honorable Dean of Faculty of Department, Technological Education Department of Faculty of Education, Universitas Negeri Malang, Bapak Dr. Ahmad Yusuf Sobri, SOS NPD, dear all lecturers, all students, and all honorable participants attending today's lectures. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu, I am Petaria Nur Ari Ika Hastuti, together with Bapak Muhyiddin Fadli, the moderators of today's guest lecture, and I hope everyone is in a good condition today. Sehat semua ya? Bahagia? Inshallah. Okay, so we have today's guest lecture, which is entitled Frugal and Playful Learning for Developing Social Resilience. Bapak Ibu, today we have a great opportunity having these 3 speakers coming all the way from Coventry University, England. Here they are. Let me briefly introduce them to you one by one. Professor Sylvester in the middle. Hi. Professor Catherine and hi, and Dr. Dominic Mahan. Okay, so I would like to introduce them respectively from Professor Sylvester Arnab. I think let me give you the short introductions.
Just a short introduction here?
Yeah,
Okay,
short introductions.
Selamat siang semua. Ya, selamat siang. Saya bisa berbahasa tapi lain sebab saya dari Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia. Dayak. Ya. Jadi bahasa saya lain sikit. But just to introduce myself, as I said, I'm originally from Malaysia, but I've been in the UK for quite a long time, and I'm currently a professor that is actually investigating game science, which refers to the investigation into the use of games and play in different sectors, in education, in industry, in culture, so on and so forth. So we are glad to be here, and especially having collaborated with Fadli as well as Beta and Deka somewhere. So it's such a good collaboration, especially working towards achieving the SDG 4 in Indonesia and looking at the different case studies that we can learn from. So that is a short but long introduction.
Let me add a bit about Professor Sylvester Arnab. He is a professor of game science at the Center for Post-Digital Cultures at the Institute for Creative Cultures. His research focuses on the investigation of engaging, empathic, and empowering experiences through the lens of playful and gameful design practices. Now, let's have our second speaker, Professor
Hello.
Catherine, please.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for your warm welcome. Thank you for your hospitality. Apologies we were delayed and we've kept you waiting, but thank you for being here. It's a great honor. We've had a wonderful visit into your country. I am researching global education. I work in a research center for global learning, and very interested in the international curriculum, international classroom, and formal context of learning, but also informal context, and the relationship of a university to the community, and what we can learn from the wisdom within community in the university. So looking at reciprocal relationships, but wonderful to be here. I'm very pleased to be part of ACES and to work with my colleagues.
Okay. Thank you. That is awesome. It's pretty complete, I guess, yeah. Now our third speaker is Dr. Dominic Mahon. Please.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to be here. My name's Dom, I work at Coventry University. My research is into education. Primarily I'm interested in how transferable skills and competencies are developed through innovative approaches and playful approaches to education. I'm also interested in sort of reimagining and rethinking the role of the student and the role of the teacher with a focus on the negotiation of learning and student-centered teaching as opposed to teacher-focused teaching.
Awesome. Thank you. Please, shall we start? Yeah. Okay, so without any further ado, let's have our guest lectures begin. Everyone, Bapak Ibu, now allow me to welcome the speakers, the three speakers, to present, to share their insights and knowledge on playful and frugal learning. And you may have the questions at the end of the presentations. Tanya jawab setelah presentasi. Terima kasih. Time is yours, please.
Yeah, I think I prefer to stand up. It's easier if you can see the slides. So, one of the things that we are interested in, and thank you very much for having us here. It's such a pleasure, and thank you to the Dean and everyone here who have taken time out to be with us. And it is our pleasure to share our experiences and the things that we have learned from the project so far, as well as from the many different projects that we have done in this particular area. So, we just want to show you the context of the work that we have done for the past 10 years. So this video might be able to, in the way, provide an introduction to our approach. So sorry for the audio. But while Pak Muhib is trying to fix this, what? Sorry.
The Game Changers Initiative is an award-winning practice-based research program focusing on the design and implementation of frugal, playful, and gameful experiences. As a collection of researchers and practitioners, the Game Changers community uses games and game-like solutions as a medium for expression, learning, and practice across all levels of education. Our aim is to make game creation and game literacy more culturally open and accessible to learners and educators internationally. Working with international partners, Game Changers expands and broadens its impact through a wide range of initiatives. Working with educators and learners in marginalised communities, we take a pragmatic and empathic approach to the design and implementation of playful and gameful interventions. Creative and playful spaces enable a myriad of disciplines to join forces and co-create playful and gameful pedagogies. Creativity and resilience are at the core of what we do. Over the years, our team have fostered a frugal approach to education innovation, merging playful learning with creative problem solving to deliver innovative, practical and sustainable pedagogic practice within our projects. We embrace openness and believe everyone should be able to benefit from our efforts. To that end, we endeavour to make all our resources and research open access, complete with guides and examples to help you reuse and remix for yourself through the power of Creative Commons. So why not come and join us and become a game changer?
So one thing that we are very much interested in, how do we design experiences that is going to be meaningful, especially in the world that we are in now, where we are basically connected, through the internet, so on and so forth. But how do we create experiences that is going to be useful for our development? Meaning that what are the different experiences that we want to create? What do we want to nurture, whether learning outcomes, whether skills development, or whether we want to change behavior, right? And most importantly, whether the experiences that we are going to create in teaching or learning will be transferable, meaning that can you actually use that particular skills in the real world? So we are in a hybrid world. It's like our relationship with education in the classroom should be translated in the real world. When you get home, you will practice what you have learned. So those are the things that we are very much interested in. So we have investigated play and games and different ways for creating meaningful experiences in so many different ways. We have done this for in the past 10 years, which has informed the idea of breaking the barrier to playful learning, meaning that we want to make it as easy as possible and as simplified as possible for anyone to be able to create their playful experiences. And these are the different projects that we have done. And one of the key projects, so one of the key projects, as I mentioned before, Game Changers, which has actually informed creative culture and beaconing in Europe and in Malaysia, which have then informed the expansion of our work. The expansion of our work in Malaysia for Creative Culture 4.0, and now ACES, the collaboration with your university, as well as a university in Ponorogo, and other universities in Vietnam and in Malaysia. So I would like to introduce this particular project. I'm not sure whether you have read about it, but this would give a bit of an description of what the project is about.
Okay, this video.
When the video is finished, but anyway, so as you can see, there are so many different departments which have been involved in this particular project that has really exploit the different expertise from education, from technology, from early childhood education, from culture, and from all sorts of different backgrounds, which have helped us to try and understand how can we create these meaningful experiences, as we have mentioned before. And these are the people who are involved in the project. As you can see, there are so many of us, and there are so many disciplines as well. And before we arrived here today, we were in Vietnam, and we were working with the stakeholders there and one of the universities there. And then we were also in Solo and Ponorogo today. So it's been a long tour. And but as you can see, that having different expertise in a project is really crucial to allow us to be more critical in the way that we create these experiences. And these are the main principles, which are about, we are talking about community that is going to drive what we do, and playfulness, of course. This is something that we are very, very much interested in. How do we remix experiences and resilience? Yep. And the values that we are going to talk about today, which we have learned from the 3 years that we have done this particular project, we understand the value of playful and frugal, which I'm going to talk about. And my colleague Catherine is going to talk about the community-centered, and Dom is going to talk about creativity. Next.
Okay. Thank you, Sylvester. So I want to just say a few words about community and what that means for ACES, and what we mean by community-centered. So, the next slide, please. I think it would be fair to say that we have been working across a wide range of different communities. We look at that as being communities within communities. If you think about it initially as the project team of researchers, academics, colleagues, working across 4 universities, we came together as a community, trying to understand a common issues amongst us, as well as the specific needs, because we also recognise the importance of context, the importance of our educational context. So we've really looked at a number of values that we've learned around what it is to be community-centred. And I think, in many ways, ACES has to have community-centred right at the heart of its practice. Because if we aren't working with the community in ways that are meaningful, then regardless of having wonderful ideas and wonderful evidence base, we won't engage and have people come along the journey and see the value in it for themselves. So in terms of community-centred, we're always trying to look at reciprocal needs and the different stakeholders within the community. So there may be people with particular roles and responsibilities that they have to drive what their role includes, but we need to have not just personal needs, we need to see the collective needs. So there may be personal drivers, particular roles people play, but together they come together in a common cause. And some of the key values around community-centred are about the building of trust and ensuring that people are listened to, people's views are respected and valued, and that we always are, as I mentioned, being mindful of our own context and how we can make sense of things locally as well as globally. So we're looking at the personal and the collective, we're looking at the local and the global, and we have to keep that at the heart of what we're doing to make sure we keep everyone on board working together. So collaboration is key, and this requires determination and resilience in itself to keep persisting, because it's not straightforward, it's complex, and it doesn't happen quickly, and there's not necessarily one size fits all. So we have to keep talking, we have to keep listening, we have to take the time to understand what we mean, the language we use, the explanations we give. We have to take time, and that enables the building of trust. And also for people to see tangible benefits so that they can feel that it's meaningful, it has a relationship, and that helps motivation. Yes, please. I think the important thing we're taking with the ACES approach is we recognise that if you just give workshops, deliver theories, especially when we're thinking about to teachers, if you just front load theory, that doesn't result in change in practice. ACES recognises this. ACES recognise that you need to build a link between theory and practice. So the ACES principles are there to be able to work with, to be able to be creative within. If you've got the key sets of principles around playful, frugal, co-creation, then that enables you to be able to try things out, that there won't be a perfect solution necessarily, that you have to have a bit of trial and error. And it's iterative, you learn as you go along. And this is what we can see here. In terms of who have we been engaging with, formal and informal context, so the university, the colleges, the schools, but also the informal context in communities, with community partners and the Solomon Ajar volunteers, within Malaysia, working with teachers who are looking at gamifying STEM. Yes, please, next subject. And then when we were in Vietnam, we were very much looking at the importance of language and cultural heritage, and how ACES has been working to support Hmong culture and ensuring that young learners keep understanding about traditions. And also here, sorry, has it gone off? No, and today, this very morning, we were out in with the batik makers in Solo, which was amazing to be able to work all together and see informal context. But there were university colleagues there were university students there was volunteers from the schools, there were the families and as well as the community leaders. So a lot of community coming together with various needs, all trying to look at this common goal of what can we learn together through being creative and meaningful and looking at quality in our education. Yes, please. Okay, so, yes.
So now we want to sort of try and touch on what do we mean by play and learn. As we could see from the process that we have gone through, the community is most important, so we want to understand more about the needs, as well as how we can actually work with teachers in so many different various contexts. And in terms of play can actually support learning in so many different ways. There are so many different types of play. All of us are familiar with playing, either playing sports, either playing games. Hide and seek is a game. There's the other one, which is Beckel. Is it Beckel? As well. And all of us have got this emotional connection to play. Why can't we exploit the emotional connection in every single experiences that we want to create? Right? How can we engage our learners better in experiencing that learning? Those are the things that we need to think about. And I do agree with what Catherine was saying, that theory is important. However, in terms of applying the theory that we learn in the classroom or at the universities even, it's important to be able to apply it. How do we engage our learners in doing that? So play can help us understand that better. So one thing in essence that we're trying to do is to create this connection of why do we need play? What are the different types of competencies or learning outcomes that we want to achieve? And how that then inform the development of resilience. Resilience is important in terms of individual resilience, the ability for us to adapt, because seriously, I think we don't actually know what are the different types of jobs that are going to appear in the future, right? We need to be more adaptive. So that's why we are very much interested in resilience. And the resilience is not just for young people who are learning, but for lecturers and teachers. Can our practice stand the test of time? Can we be resilient in what we do? Can we learn from playfulness and frugal? I think in Bahasa, I think it's hemat, right? Hemat, right? So, yeah. So in terms of frugal practices, it's not just about the cost, it's about the way that we simplify the way we learn, the way we teach. Simplify it to the extent that we will support the students who would need help the most. So that will in a way support everyone else. So these are the things that we want to push as well in terms of the connection between the frugal and the playful aspect, and how it would actually develop competencies and learning, and how it can make us resilient, the practice that we do and the learners themselves. And one thing that I'm going to talk about here, I know that there are a lot of different bubbles and whatnot, but one thing that I want to mention here is about the value-based approach to design. Designing learning experiences that are based on values. What I mean by values would be, imagine we are playing a game now, right? No one is going to force you to play. You would want to play it, right? And then you will make decision on how you play it. On what decision, how are you going to solve that problem in that particular game? And it will make you feel very curious about the particular game. It's like, why is he better than me? How can I be better than this person and then play it in a different way? So that's social learning, right? You learn from one another, not just from your own reflection, by looking at someone else. And you also talk about the agency. That's what I said about making decisions, being able to respond to challenges, accountability, responsibility. So all these values that play provides, we can learn from it. So when you create a learning design, it doesn't have to be a game, it doesn't have to be play, but think about the values that you want to include in it. Would you like your student to, in a way, engage with a topic voluntarily, giving them the opportunity to be creative in the way that they respond to that challenge? Because this is important. When we are in the real world, no one is going to tell us what to do, right? So these are the things that we need to think about, especially those who are doing your masters, your PhDs, and undergraduates who are here. Think about ways for you to make a difference. Think about ways that you can actually make what you are learning, what you are creating, is going to be resilient in the future, the skills that you are going to develop in the process. It's like those who are doing your PhDs, that when I was doing my PhDs, I look at it as character development, persistence. So it's like the survival for the fittest type thing. So we learn all sorts of different things. So play is like that. When you go through one level to another level to another level, it would help us to really scaffold our own development. And frugal is something that we are interested in, because when we have conversation with teachers, it's, oh, we can't do play and games because we don't know technology, we don't want to use technology. And I say that play is not just about technology, it's about thinking about ways to simplify a process. So if you look at frugal values, how can we be sustainable in the way that we create our lessons? Can we recycle lessons and curriculum and then change it up and make it more relevant to the way that you want to teach in your own classroom? And think about the practicality, the creative methods that we can actually go through that would allow us to be more creative in the way that we respond to challenges. And this will be, I think, important for the university as well, in terms of how can you encourage members of staff to be creative and sharing different resources so that they can reuse each other's resources. Say that if one of you have created a game or something playful for your classroom, you can actually share it with the other lecturers. You can actually recycle it and then create something different on top of what you have done. So that is just a quick example for that. Next slide. And playful and frugal resources. There are three key things that we are looking at. One is resources. The second one is space. And the third one, practice, okay? So resources is about what are the different instruments that we can create, whether it is a game, whether it is some activities For example, here you can see in Indonesia and Malaysia, they've run a program which is called STEM Bucket. So STEM Bucket, it was actually inspired by the time that we were in the pandemic. We can't actually go anywhere. Kids couldn't actually learn in the classroom, and parents would have to bear all the responsibilities in teaching their children. So we thought that what are the different things that can help it to be more resilient in the future? Can we create frugal resources for teaching science? For example, you can create a filtering system by using plastic bottles and rocks and sand and whatnot, and kids can learn how to create them. That's fun because you can create things together with your friends or with your parents and whatnot, and you can learn a lot of things from that. So from here, it can also inspire them to think about other stuff like technology. If you want to include technologies, there are so many different ways to use frugal methodology for using technology in a more effective way. And this is an example. As you can see, it's quite small there. The playful aspect and the frugal aspect based on the ones we mentioned before. Right, so this is one of the students, and we met her yesterday. No, yesterday, right? Yes. We met her yesterday. And not only that she won the Indonesian category, she won the overall category across all 3 countries. And she's only about 10 years old? Only 10 years old, and she won all 3 awards. And she won the Gold Award for Indonesia for frugal aspect and the overall categories. So there were about 25 submissions from 3 countries, from Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So I just want to play a bit of this because the video is quite long.
Halo teman-teman, namaku Faiha, aku kelas 2 SD. Hari ini aku akan membuat roket lontar. Ini alat dan bahannya, ada paper cups 3 buah, ada lem kertas, ada tusuk gigi, ada gunting, ada karet gelang, ada jarum dan benang, dan kertas lipat warna-warni untuk menghias. Kita buat bentuk roketnya, tumpuk 2 paper cups agar roketnya lebih kuat. Lalu kita hias deh.
It's quite a long video of how to create a rocket. And while she's doing that, there were 3 judges who looked at this. One is from the UK, and the other one is from Scotland, and the other one is from Canada. So they are all into the STEM products and whatnot, and they are very impressed with what she did. It's so simple, it's so frugal, it's playful, and kids can do it at home, and they can learn about elasticity, they can learn about shapes, they can learn about geometries, they can learn about momentum, so on and so forth. Yeah, it's quite long. I can share the website so they can have a look at all the different submissions. So can you just go? So just to show some of the other stuff that the other countries have done. Yeah, so that was the advert for the STEM bucket challenge thing that where she submitted and she won. So another thing we're looking at are spaces. In Indonesia, we went to Solo yesterday and we visited a space for ESSES for playful learning in a frugal way, and it's such an inspiration to see young people engaging with learning and engaging with the space and engaging with the community there, which we think is important. And in Indonesia, we have Green Playground, which is a playground that has been created by the teachers, young people, as well as the ESSES team in Vietnam, where they are trying to see how can they use a playground to encourage outdoor teaching and also to introduce the culture of the Muong tribe in Vietnam. So it's quite interesting to see the way that it has been used and the way that the teachers have created different experiences which are meaningful for the learners themselves. And in doing so, they are able to, in a way, encourage other teachers to be more creative in the classroom. And in Malaysia, they managed to get a very old bus. They redid the whole thing and created a creative space where people can use it for teaching and learning, not only for universities, but also for schools who can actually take that space and then use it for teaching. So space is important. The way that we arrange spaces in the classroom can really change the way we learn and the way we teach. So something that is important and it has been proven as well in a different assessment and different evaluations that we are done and that we are going to do. And the third one are practices. This is important. The practice that we change in the community is important in order for it to be sustained. For example, the one in Karangpatihan, we engaged with the village there in batik making. So using frugal and playful approaches in getting disabled people to be able to create different patterns for batik ciprat. So it's quite an interesting process to go through. And this practice is going to be sustained. This is something that we are looking at, and it's very important from the frugal perspective and from the playful perspective as well. And the Muong ethnic language and culture, which has been used, or which has been in a way supported in terms of the teaching and learning of this particular culture by using a playground. And the teachers have changed the way they teach in the classroom as well.
Karangpatihan village, located in rural area which is quite far from the center of Ponorogo city, has a community with special needs. Volunteers from Rumah Harapan Mulia, in collaboration with ACES Indonesia, have successfully empowered the community to introduce its product to a wider community until it is widely recognized. Through ACES Indonesia for Inclusive Education, building resilience of batik makers community through playful and frugal eco-print activities, batik makers in Karangpatihan start learning more new things, using natural materials such as leaf, flowers, stem, or other plant parts that produce color pigments. This eco-print is environmentally friendly because of the natural dyes used in an easy way of making but capable of producing unique works. A series of offline training which took place on January 29 till 30, 2022 involved batik makers as a target audience and volunteers and assistants as trainers. The training events began with remarks and an outline of the material, followed by direct practice with batik makers Karangpatihan. Through excellent cooperation of batik makers, eco-print work has been successfully created from natural material and produce quality works. This training aims is to make batik makers in Karangpatihan learn new things, develop their work creativity and innovation, grow their self-confidence, and get an appreciation for their existence despite physical limitation. Access Indonesia team will contribute more by creating a guidebook entitled Young Volunteers Making Ecoprint, following to the request of Rumah Harapan community as a guide to create a sustainable ideas and other frugal and playful activities in the future.
So you could see Pak Buhit's face on there. Oh, yes. Next. So, Dom.
Hello again. Thanks. I hope you're still with us. So I'm just going to talk briefly about co-creation. I guess the way that I think about co-creation, no, you can put the slide forward, is to do with a cycle, a progressive cycle of development. That's the one. There we are. Okay, I'm going to explain this. So, co-creation is connected to motivation, intrinsic motivation, which is, from all sorts of different areas, a very good thing to develop. Intrinsic motivation comes out of two things, which I'm going to try and illustrate are connected to co-creation: a sense of ownership and skill or ability. Basically, we're motivated to do things that we're good at and that we control or that we own. So co-creation gives ownership and it makes people better at what they do, which therefore continues motivation. So the ideas that we've come up with, or the way that we want to think about co-creation in ACES, are as follows: a fluid, co-owned, co-reflective, process-based and emergent. And by fluid, what we mean is that there's not one size-fits-all model of co-creation. So, for example, this session is a form of co-creation, believe it or not, but it could be different. So, different people, different groups, different collections are going to want to work together in different ways, and we're trying to create a model that allows for the participation of someone who is has one skill set working with a group of people with a completely different skill set. People who are going to contribute a little bit, people who are going to contribute a lot. It needs to be adaptive in that sense. But it needs to be co-owned. If you have some people or groups that are involved that don't have a sense of ownership, they won't have that motivation. They won't develop that motivation. So perhaps you might feel that you don't own this session, and that as a result, you might not be as motivated to engage with it as you did if you were involved in the creation of it, for example. Also, co-reflective, which basically just means that we need to understand everyone's experience of what's going on. So again, thinking about what we're doing here today, if I go away from this session and I reflect on it, that's going to give some value to me. But if I go away and reflect on it, and then I ask you to go away and reflect on it, and then we all come together and talk about it, it's going to be a lot better than if I just went away and reflected about it on my own. So no matter about what the participation was, no matter the role, it's really important to listen to the voices of everyone who is involved in it. And this, in its sense, gives that sense of ownership. Because if I'm asking you your opinion, you feel as though you have a stake in what I'm talking about. And so we get this sort of progressive cycle, it kind of snowballs. The other thing that we're talking about is this idea of it being process-based. Now, this isn't to say that the result isn't important. The result is important. But we have a phrase in English, the means justify the ends. And I think when we're talking about something being process-based, what we're saying is really, actually, the means are as important, if not more important, than the ends. By thinking about the process, by engaging with the process, what we're doing is developing what we're talking about. And then the final bit of this is this idea of emergence. And that, are you familiar with the idea of Gestalt theory? No? Yeah? Okay. So yeah, Gestalt is basically just the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so that's what we're saying here. By taking all of the people that were involved, all of the reflections, all of the ideas, what's going to emerge is going to be of greater value than the individual thing on its own. We can move on. So how do you do that? How have we done that? Is anybody here thinking of going into teaching? Do we have any teachers in the room? No?
No lecturers?
No lecturers? No academics? So, I mean, basically, what we're doing is we're working with teachers, because we feel that by empowering teachers and giving teachers skills, this is going to be something which has a knock-on effect and an increasingly important impact, as it were, because teachers work with children, they work with young adults, they work with adults, and by, you know, it's just generally an important person in a community. Obviously, education is one of the SDGs, but I think we would argue, or I would argue anyway, that it's one of the SDGs which impacts the other ones as well, in that if you have greater education, you're more likely to develop zero poverty, etc. and so forth. We can move on. So, a lot of the work that we've done has involved trying to upskill teachers and volunteers. So, for example, where we were this morning, we spoke to the volunteers who were university students. They talked about how their capabilities had been enhanced as a result of working with these people, and their perceptions had changed as well, but that's another story. In Vietnam, we talked to teachers who were very much involved in a traditional form of education, very similar to, I suppose, what we're doing now. To criticise myself here, this idea of like standing at the front and lecturing. And by engaging with ACES, these people were realising that actually a far more engaging, better way of teaching is involving people, active learning, listening to students, empowering students. I mean, at the end of the day, when you walk out of the classroom, or when you walk out of a session, it's not the student who should have learned something in isolation. It's everyone who should learn. And when we take the idea of, you know, if I were to say, at the end of my class, I have learned nothing, but the people in the room have, in my opinion, I'm not really doing a very good job. Everyone should be learning, and this process is what we're trying to capture. Move on. So we have here some of the examples of what we've done. In Indonesia, we have the STEM Bucket Project, the Batik village where we were at this morning, which was great, wasn't it? I mean, it was really very impressive. In Vietnam, playground, they've done, they're promoting ethnic languages through curriculum which is playful. And in Malaysia, they built a bus, which was just great. We're looking forward to seeing that. And I feel like I'm singing karaoke holding the microphone like this. Okay, and the next slide then. So, you know, what's in it for you guys? We can all get rich. Basically, education is projected to be worth $2.5 trillion in the global economy, which is an awful lot of money. And the key to that is education. We think that the key to successful education and transformative education involves the principles that we've been talking about: playful, frugal, and co-creative. I shall hand it over for the close.
So we're almost at the end, but I want to just take you back to having started talking about the importance of being community-centred, and also that that idea of we've been working with communities within communities. Hopefully you can see that now, see that the way we've been working across universities, with colleges, schools, with policymakers, with communities, with families, with industry partners, with volunteers. How many of you are doing research as part of your studies? Hands up those who are having to do a thesis or a piece of research as part of your work. I'm sure you are. I was thinking, I'm wondering how they're capturing all this. How are they capturing all the learning that's going on here? And so it was just to mention to you about how are we understanding the impact? How are we looking at what we're doing together and capturing that? Because we are researchers and we do have to think about disseminating what we're doing in meaningful ways. So keeping that importance of community centres, we've been building an inquiry which is very participatory. So we've been doing participatory research with all those different communities in many ways, trying to listen, trying to understand the local context, share that across our various contexts, look at shared meanings as well as individual accounts. So some of the videos that you've seen and the short films are some of the ways we've captured understanding. You can learn a lot through a film. We've also been using survey data. We've also been doing pre and post to get students' views before a class, after the class, over time. We've been meeting with people in groups and having conversations. There's been lots of opportunity to think about taking photographs and having meetings online. We have done 3 years, more or less, on screens in many ways because we couldn't travel. So I just wanted to let you know about how we're trying to capture meaning over time. And this is right at the heart, again, of being community-centred. And not just doing something in isolation, not doing research on people, but doing our work with people, with community, in order that it is absorbed, it is enabled to then be adaptive in terms of helping people think of alternatives that have tangible meaning. And through that, then there's the possibility for transition and transformation. And that's essentially this deep learning, this way of rethinking practice in ways that means that you wouldn't likely revert back to previous practice because you've shifted into a new mindset, a new way of thinking. So this is the research we've been trying to do, to capture a theory of change using very collaborative means to keep connected with all the different communities within communities and across communities. So I just wanted to emphasise that and how you can look on the website for all the different ways we're trying to disseminate using range of media. Yes. We do have to write this up for journals, and I guess we're presenting to you now as another means, because maybe you'll go on and share this with other people, and that's important too, this ability to share, cascade, get involved. So thank you, I just wanted to add that.
Okay. So that's it. Okay. Thank you so much for Professor Catherine and Professor Anam and my friend Tom. And today's occasion we have seen so many activities, and please, if you have any questions, please raise your hands and state your names and you are from undergraduate, master or doctorate. Okay, please.
Ya, sudah ada 2
Okay.
orang di belakang. Iya, ada mic.
Thank you. First of all, my English still don't, not enough. So I will try to speak with English, to understand about my question. In the 2019, I have to develop some game experience in about the board game and I have developed with them. And for this experience, I developed to combine with the culture, game with culture. So Alhamdulillah, it's accepted into the Jakarta and accepted into the Malaysia especially, and we have to make in the past time. it's not now. In the past time. So I have to question. Yeah, this is very interesting about the presentation, and I will ask about how if we will to make this creation about the playful to make the in the diversity of, especially in the Indonesia, because Indonesia has the diversity of many religion, many culture, and many all. So it is different about the other country. It is my first question, and the second question is what is the difference about the loose part media? Okay, that's my question, and because the loose part media is also about the second-hand part of the. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
From undergraduate or master?
Oh, okay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dari from the graduate of Educational Technology.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you very much for those two questions, and congratulations for getting your board games supported in other countries as well, because it is important for us to really try and reach out to different communities, especially in terms of games and play. For your first question, that is a fantastic question, because we have this question in so many different countries that we work in, especially in Europe as well as in Asia. It's all about the cultural connection of games and how we can ensure that we will address the different needs, the different ethnicities, the different religions, so on and so forth. One thing that we will always do, which we didn't discuss today, is a method which we call remixing play. Remixing play refers to taking inspirations from existing game to inform the process of the creation of a new game for whatever purposes that you want it to be. Imagine it is for education. You can think about what learning objectives that you want to achieve, what competencies that you want to actually address, and then you can try and think about the inspiration in terms of the games that you are going to use to inform the design of the new experience, right? So one thing that we always do in the different countries is to encourage people to think about their traditional games, because it is important to keep in touch with your own tradition, with your own culture. Of course, I can talk about games like Monopoly or games like Scrabble and stuff. Those are quite generic. But if you can think about games that we have played in the past, or games which are popular in your own country or in your own culture, that would in a way enhance the sense of autonomy for the players. Because, oh, this is my culture, this is me, right? So I think it is important to include the cultural references in games that you are creating specifically for the community. However, if you are trying to create a game for mainstream players, meaning that anyone can play, make sure that you have a lot of play testing. Play testing is important. In anything, creating software, you need to do play testing. Creating games, you have to do play testing before you deliver the alpha version, the beta version, as well as the final version, right? So we need to make sure that we include the different communities to test them out. We created something for the different countries of Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And in this particular design that we did, we used a lot of black. And then we test them out. And in Vietnam, they said, black is not a good color for our culture, so we can't use this, right? So that's why you need to test it. You really need to test it. And there are so many communities on social media, on Discord, and all other platforms that you can engage with and get people to test them if you are aiming for the mainstream use, right? But if it's specific to a community, work with that particular community to co-create the games. That what Dom was saying, co-creation is important, because that will really enhance that particular game that you want to create. I hope that answered the first question. And the second question was? The loose parts. The loose parts, one thing that we were talking about previously, okay, one is you are actually creating a game, right? You are creating playful resources for teaching and learning. For the loose parts, we are talking about the values of play. The values of play, like you experiment, you are becoming curious, you have the autonomy to play with different parts of, I don't know, what you want to create, and you be creative in that particular process. And you also work in a social context. You might collaborate with another person in creating something. So the best thing to do it is by creating loose parts which are made out of anything that anyone can find. Because if you provide the instruction anywhere online or you can print them out, people can find those resources. For example, if I want to send it to a very small village in Malaysia, for example, a few years ago that we had to sort of fly from Kuala Lumpur to Kuching, Kuching to Miri, Miri to a small airport. From the airport, we took the boat upstream to a village, right? They haven't got a lot of things. They haven't got technology and whatnot. And such approaches of using loose materials which are made of natural resources is important because they can get it anywhere. And we don't want to stop children from learning. So that would, in a way, inform the basic minimum viable product. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with the concept of MVP, the minimum viable product that you can create. And then if you want to use it in a city, they can look at the same concept, that, oh, we can afford to buy this because the school has got a lot of funding, so we can buy Lego, we can buy all sorts of different things, right? But the context and the concept itself, I think frugality is about understanding the context, creating something at the speed of need, meaning that if there's a need, you create something there and then in an agile way, which is important, and co-creation is one of the key things as well. Hopefully that answers your two questions.
Just, I think what Sylvester's reinforced as well, and it links to what Dom mentioned about this importance of reflection and the sense making, and this is part of our collaborative research, that you can't just do this on your own. You know, you can make things, design things, but the whole process is very iterative. This is what we've been trying to do. So whilst we're, you know, looking at how different communities are looking at particular needs and thinking of things that can add value, it's still a case of keep checking and going back, getting a range of views, sharing the lessons learned with those same people in that context, and always checking out, always reflecting, always iterative. That helps us keep building and moving on. So I think we keep bringing it back to all these ideas of being community-centered, being collaborative, being iterative, not one size fits all, knowing some key values, and listening and watching and hearing and thinking again. Yeah.
Give applause to Professor Catherine. I love the way that you are talking about one size doesn't fit all. It's very interesting because some of our education system in Indonesia is we measure, fixed by the ability climbing, and then we measure how ship by the swimming. I agree with this. One size doesn't fit at all. Yes. Okay. Any question? Ada pertanyaan lagi? Silakan. Okay. Please state your names.
Alright, please apologize in advance because my English is not really good as well.
No problem, yes.
So my name is Iren. I am an undergraduate from the Department of Educational Technology. So I have a few questions. The first is, do any of the students or people who uses this playful and frugal learning model feel it's like a hassle to, say, craft the things used for the learning? Or that students don't feel like playing when they're learning? Because in my experiences, I heard that some students don't like crafting stuff just to learn or collect resources. Meanwhile, some students don't like cooperative learning or feel like it's more effective for them to do the learning alone. Is there any solutions for students of that characteristics? And can I ask one more question?
No worries, yeah, go on.
All right, so I heard from the presentation that it's more of a process and not the end result of the learning. But it's possible that some people think that when they're playing a game, whether by computers or outdoor activities, etc., they just think about fun and not learning. Some people, especially the older ones, like teenagers or adults, may think that it's the process that counts. But is it possible for kids to think like that? If so, how should we design a playful and frugal learning that kids can prioritize and realize the goal of the process more than the end result?
Great
Thank you.
Another fantastic set of questions. Thank you very much, because this is something that we really need to talk to. We need to talk about, because everywhere in the world people are talking about the same thing in terms of the balancing of fun and serious. It has been an issue 10 years ago. It's an issue now. And one thing that I would say is it has to be contextualized. And in terms of creating loose parts that would perhaps exclude certain people, some people who might not be comfortable in playing with other students. This is something that is interesting because we have seen this in many different activities that we have run, that we have tested, that we have experimented. We realize there is a power, there is something to, with regards to the power of observation. You need to allow students to have the freedom to say no, I'm not going to participate, because play, if you think about play theory, it is also include non-participation. But non-participation can translate into participation. As an example, when we were in the small village I mentioned before, so what we did was the teachers created some games because they were trying to test it, so the next day the learners would come in. Some of them were a bit shy, didn't really want to interact with games, but they were watching their other friends playing it, and suddenly they were the ones who were very engaged. And there are some people who are not really engaged in the classroom. Suddenly, they are the ones who are shouting the answers, even though all the answers were wrong. So, play provides that safe space. And when we provide that safe space, it includes allowing people not to participate, but to observe. So, teachers should allow that. And I've seen it happening and working in the different classrooms because people learn from observing. And when we talk about games, the gaming culture, there is another set of group which we call the spectator. So the spectator is like when we watch football, right? Anyone watching, was it the World Cup? Yeah, the World Cup, right? We all say that, oh, you should have done it that way, or you should have done it this way. It's like, oh, you stupid guy, you're not supposed to kick that ball there, right? That is the power of being a spectator. You learn by watching, and then you will say that I can do it better, type thing, right? So it is important to include that because that is play. You need to allow people to sit back, watch, and don't feel uncomfortable. Some people are, of course, some people are very social. They will say, oh, I will do this, and some people will take the lead. And loose parts, crafting, yes, I agree in terms of sometimes crafting stuff might not be suitable in that particular situation. One thing that we always do in our training is to ensure that educators will understand the context of use is important. Where would that playful resource situate? Is it going to be in the beginning of your teaching? Is it going to be something in the middle, something at the end, or something that you use as a homework that someone would do? And then instead of writing essays, they would play with that sort of thing, come back to the classroom, and do a presentation or reflect on it. So it depends on the way and where those games or whatever resources, whatever crafting that you create would situate, because there is an issue that teachers also find it difficult in terms of finding time to create stuff. And that goes back to the community-centered approach where open practice meaning that you share your resources, everything is open, another teacher can reuse another resource from another teacher. So if you have, say, 10 teachers creating 2 resources each, there will be 20 resources that you can reuse and change. And then they will keep on creating stuff together, and you can see the impact. And one thing that when we were in that particular village, some of the teachers were very skeptical. Said, "Oh, it's not going to work." So we said, "Okay, listen, let's play this game in 1 hour." They were playing games, they were enjoying themselves, they were laughing and whatnot. And the second hour, we said, "Now that you have played these games, think of something that is so difficult to teach in your classroom. Try and see if you can reuse these game mechanics and create a new game to teach a particular subject." And they were surprised that in less than 2 hours, they managed to create the game, prototype it, and after lunch, they tested it out with the kids. And they could see how engaged the learners are, and the teachers are still using it. One of them have moved to another school, and he's the deputy head now. So he's actually asking all the teachers to try and create games for the classroom. So you can see how powerful this is. And the second question is one of the most difficult questions about the balancing of fun and serious. We have done a lot of research in terms of course, there are so many evidence out there that is saying that if you play a game, the before and after, you can see the differences in terms of the learning outcomes. But there are not a lot of studies that is trying to understand why is it effective, what aspects of that particular game is effective. How do we understand what are the different learning outcomes that have been achieved within that particular game, right? It's not the before and after, it's the in-between. So one work that we are doing, we call it the learning mechanics, game mechanics mapping approach that we have created in 2015 and has been used in so many different parts of the world where they create their games, is to get educators to think about the learning outcomes. You know, when we do our lesson plans, you start with the learning outcomes. What do you want to achieve? How do you think you will be able to measure it? What are the types of learning that you need to do there? Whether you want people to hypothesize, whether you want them to test different theories, whether you want them to, in a way, try to understand different concepts. And then you can think about a game inspiration and the mechanics of a game. Perhaps, for example, you want them to problem solve. So the game mechanics might be linking to narratives. So the narrative, the stories, the scenarios. So what scenario can link to problem solving? What are the process of problem solving? And you can link it to a learning model if you are interested in this word pedagogy. So think about the process of learning. Problem-based learning has got its own processes. So you can match your game design to the different processes of learning. In that way, you will be able to test it and see, does it really help someone to improve problem solving? If so, if yes, then which part of the stage of problem solving that has been improved? So that will help you to inform new games that you want to create and slowly create that balance, because you will never please every single student in the classroom, right? Some students might find it so effective, some students might say that, oh, it's boring because I've played PS5, PlayStation, so this game is not as fun, right?
It's yours.
Oh, yes. Right, so these are the game mechanics, and it's quite big, But the way that we run with the teachers is to get them to think about the mechanics of games. It's important. This is important for educational technology as well. When you create a software, how do you know that the XAPR that you include the technology is going to help you to measure different types of learning? So this is the same approach. And I've got a PhD student in Australia. What he's doing is he's trying to connect this to XAPI for educational technology. Is how do we measure it? Stealth measurement. So you collect and you track what is happening. What are the contexts? For example, oh, this is the scenario. You have to talk to this customer. So what do you say when you talk to this customer? So the XAPI will be able to collect that information and track it for you, and that would inform what types of learning that happened, what types of gaming that sort of informed that as well. So yeah, so that is not a very straightforward answer, but hopefully that sort of makes sense.
I'll try to be quick as well, but just to respond to your question, the first thing about, like, you know, some people won't want to do it, as I was trying to say like earlier, education, teaching and learning is not a one-way street. It should be understanding what the learner wants. So whenever you're doing anything in the classroom, you need to negotiate learning. You need to understand, what does this person, what do these people know, and what do they want to know? Because you can't teach anyone anything that they don't want to learn. And so before you do anything at all, that process, understanding why are these people here, what do they want to know? And then also just to point out that, you know, it isn't gamification full on. We aren't just talking about playing games in the classroom. It's about having a playful approach. And those principles that we were talking about, you know, basically providing people an opportunity to make mistakes. So it's low risk. So you try again and again. That's the thing about a game. When you try it, you die in the game, but you can, you know, you start again, you have another go, you get better. Whereas something like an exam, it's very high stakes. If you get it wrong, that's it. So these sorts of approaches encourage problem solving, make people, you know, try things over and over again, work together. And again, it's this process of, as you get better at something, you're more likely to get involved in it. So what Sylvester was talking about, being the spectator, that's part of getting better at something, because you watch it, you start to understand it, you think, oh yeah, I can do this, and I'll have a go if you fail, but there's an opportunity for you to try it again and again and get better. That's the motivational aspect that I was talking about. So yeah, to answer your questions, one, understand what people want by talking to them and asking them, and then two, create an environment where they feel comfortable and they can experiment.
Thank you so much, Prof. Sylvester and Dom. And that's it. We have at the entry point of as educational technologies. One is facilitating learning, and second is improving human performance. And Dom and Catherine have explained more deeply how we create a very simple ways of frugal initiative, co-creation, etc. And I hope all of them answer your question. Yeah, thank you so much. Final question, the third question. Okay, we had love. No worries. No
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Please go on.
Hello, my name is Tiara. I am a master's student from Educational Technology, and I also a teacher. Okay, and I have two questions because I am a teacher. My questions is a little bit technical, I guess. Okay, so my questions is: do we need a competition in this frugal living to raise engagement for the students? Like which one is the best project and something like that. And the second one, after the frugal game, I see that the reflective writing is the most important in students that have doing to write a reflective writing. How can we motivate the students to also enjoy in writing the reflection, not only to focus in the activity? Thank you. That is my question.
Yes, please. Thank you for your question.
Tiara. Your name is Tiara.
I'm going to pick up the second one because I'm really interested in and the importance of reflection. I think it links back to our other colleague's question, and it made me think about learning isn't always comfortable, you know, and it shouldn't be, I don't think. I think learning can be difficult, uncomfortable, disquieting, and challenge your perspectives, make you have to rethink something. And we know that when we try and evaluate students immediately after a session, they might react and say, I hated that, I didn't like that, I don't want to do it again, it was pointless. But we know when we go back to students maybe a month later, it's difficult to do that sometimes, but to follow them up a bit later, then they have a different view sometimes because they've had chance to digest it and make sense of it. And I think this is where reflection comes in. If we did that sooner, sometimes with students, and made space for reflection to say, why did we just do that? What was the point of it? And it comes back to Dom's point about this cycle of why are we doing what we're doing and how are we trying to learn here. So I think reflection is key. It matters when you do it and how you do it. Coming back to how you do it, I don't think you always have to write it. I mean, we get students to, you know, use their phone and talk into their phone and do a short recording. Or they might want to draw it. How did it make you feel? You know, draw something. Use a metaphor. Relate it to something else. So I think writing reflection is a skill, actually, and, you know, it takes time to develop writing skills, but I think there's many ways to reflect, and it doesn't always have to be via text, and it could be in a group, could be very individual, it could be anonymous. It could lead into assessment, so maybe they're more motivated if the reflection is linked to some summative assessment, or even formative, to get feedback. But, and I think the teacher also needs to reflect. We have to reflect, don't we? It's not just the student, it's what have we learned? How is it changing us and our practice? Because we're not static, we have to keep evolving in our thinking. So I'll pick up the second one. The first one, about competition with Frugal.
Right. So in terms of as I think I'm trying to understand the question, it's about why do we do a competition for Frugal? Yes. This is an interesting context because we have worked with so many teachers across the 3 countries, and upon the discussion, because this is all about participatory action research, right? By working with the partners as well as working with the teachers who are basically working with our partners in the 3 countries, and the decision was to have something that will allow them to showcase what they've done and giving them some prizes and certificates and showcase and whatnot. 25 submissions, and we were quite surprised to receive that much, really. And they are all so excited because I receive a lot of emails every day asking, oh, what about this, can we submit? Yes, you can. It's like, because this is such an interest. So they ask for feedback, which is great, because that is important for teaching, even though it is first and foremost a competition, but they were using it as a platform to ask for feedback. They were emailing us asking for feedback, saying, can you watch this and see whether this is frugal or playful and whatnot, which is great. And one of the key things there as well, the fact that all of the 25 submissions are going to be showcased, and we are also going to work on trying to map it against lesson plans, because I think that would link to the previous question of how to make sure that whatever the teachers are creating is going to link to certain practical outcomes that anyone else can reuse. So we want to make it as practical as possible for anyone to go on the website, or the one that we are going to print out. We are also going to create sort of like a booklet of examples and practical guidelines on how people can replicate it. These are 25 examples, and it will be more, because I'm sure that when someone is going to reuse that, they will create another version of it, another instance. And that is a frugal approach from the perspective of resources. How do we ensure that teachers are also given the opportunity to access different resources from different countries? Because one of the key issues for teachers, I think you would agree with me, that time, you can't find time because teachers are doing so many admin work. I don't know why you're doing admin work, but so teachers are so busy. It's like, even I've got my 3 sisters are teachers as well, so they kept on asking me for ideas on what they can do, because they said they want to do something interesting, but they don't have time to do it. So I understand from that perspective. So time. So this is the reason why we did the competition, to make it more interesting. And teachers, I think from the ones that we've engaged with, they love the fact that they want the school to recognize them. So because they have submitted to an international, quote-unquote, international competition across the 3 countries, and they are given certificates for it, so that in a way convince the school to say, give me time to create something for my classroom, because I've done this and it has been recognized. So in the way we were trying to give them more confidence in doing it, and of course having competition is not, sometimes people will look at it as not as a positive thing, but if you create a competition, make sure you have many categories. So what we did was, we have the category for learning, the one that is showing and demonstrating something that is more powerful in terms of learning, something that is very playful, something that is more frugal, and something that include everything. So people would see the examples. It's easier to see example than us talking about it in the classroom, right? So it's easier to see examples and they can replicate. And the second question, I just want to add something, just now, but I forgot because I've got a fish brain.
Reflection.
Was it about reflection? Oh yes, the reflection in terms of fun, right? Challenges.
Yeah.
Because fun, if you look at the definition of fun, there are four key fun. The first one is the easy fun, meaning that any games you get from the shop and then you can play with it, and you can easily play with your family. You don't really think about it because they are essentially for entertainment. Okay, and the second one is they call it people fun. They call it hard fun. Hard fun is when we are also engaged in solving a problem. Even though you are so frustrated, you are so annoyed, but you want to keep on doing it, keep on trying to do it so that you will be able to, in a way, prove to yourself that you can actually achieve it. In game design, I'm sure that those of you who are doing game design, this is important. The conflict is important in games, meaning that that would challenge you enough to make you want to play. If the challenge is too low and you can do everything, as you'll be like, oh, this is boring, I don't want to engage. But if the challenge is just nice for you to engage with, that will make you want to improve your skills. That is powerful. That is powerful. And people doesn't have to really enjoy it, even though the word enjoyment is very subjective, and the word fun is very subjective. But hard fun is something that we really push and mix with the easy fun to give a bit more sort of narrative, fantasy, and then the hard fun. And the third one is people fun. Would you want to include social interaction? Because sometimes it's quite interesting to see kids playing hopscotch, for example, or Bekel. In Malaysia we call it Batu Seremban. Yeah, Batu Seremban, right? It's quite fun. And it's challenging as well. But anyway, so that is an example of people fun. You can play with others. It's hard fun and it's easy at the same time. You learn a lot of things. And then the last one is the serious fun, they call it. This is when you can start using all of these three different aspects and include something serious. Oh, I want them to learn about teamwork. I want them to learn about math, because in order to pick Batu Seremban, right, you need to know your 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. Yeah. Right? That's an example of learning that you can include. Or you can use Batu Seremban to teach about climate change, saying that different rocks represent different parts of the ecosystem in the world. So you can only pick water and fire that is going to help, that is going to be the opposite, or something like that. So you can easily try and include some serious fun in your design. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Sylvester and Catherine. And I think that's all. The question is, time is up, I think. Oh, I'm sorry to say in bahasa to wrap up this conference. Saya mohon maaf teman-teman, Bapak Ibu dosen yang kami hormati, karena kami tadi telat sekitar 1 jam dari preparationnya. Karena tadi saya belajar banyak hal dari teman kami dari UK, di mana mereka doing research in there, mereka melakukan penelitian. Di sana tadi mereka melakukan FGD dengan komunitas disabilitas di sana. Kemudian mereka mencatat focus group discussion di sana, kemudian mencatat, kemudian itu tidak cepat, memakan waktu yang cukup lama. Oleh karena itu tadi kami mohon maaf atas delaynya seperti itu. Tapi overall kita beri applause lagi kepada 3 profesor kita. And for tomorrow, they will be depart to Malaysia, and this is a very quite long journey because mereka sudah travel minggu lalu 18 jam dari UK ke Vietnam, kemudian 2 hari kemudian ke sini, kita pakai darat, pakai tol.
Dari Solo dulu ya? Dari
Solo, kemudian ke Malang. Itu menurut saya, tapi wajahnya lihat sangat fresh sekali, still fresh, young. And you know, ketika saya di jalan, ini pengalaman ketika saya berada dalam satu mobil dengan beliau, mereka tetap mencatat. They are still note. And I think it's very impressive, and we can get a lot of experience from them. And thank you so much for your coming, and Thank you so much for the audience, our Professor Punaji, Professor Burhan, our department, Pak Henry, our coordinator department, Pak Dedi, and all of students. See you all. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think the last is a photo session. Please, professors.
Before that, I'm going to take a Wi-Fi.
Okay, we take the Wi-Fi, everyone. Okay, please stand. Tolong berdiri semuanya. Kita take away Wi-Fi. Okay, but sorry, semuanya mohon maaf. Ternyata Sylvester and Catherine, the last is they give you some gift from our department. Please welcome to our head of department, Bapak Dr. Henry Prahardiono, and you can stand here, please, Professor. Okay, give applause to them. Okay. It's for you. Okay, enough? Okay, thank you so much Pak Henry. And please Prof. Punaji, Prof. Burhan, Pak Dedi, Bapak Ibu rekan-rekan dosen dari Prodi Departemen Teknologi Pendidikan, silahkan kita perkenankan untuk maju ke depan untuk sesi foto terlebih dahulu. Pak Eka, Bu Deka, Mas Madi silahkan. Oke, Pak Fikri, Pak Citra. Pak Yeri mana Pak Yeri? Woi, kipas Pak Yeri, oh gak kelihatan, mohon maaf. Pak Yeri di belakang ternyata. Terima kasih banyak Pak Yeri, luar biasa.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My be your superhero.